I'm Catherine Ross, and I'm here live from the NYC with Jim Cramer. Jim, let's kick it off by going unfiltered. What's on the top of your mind?
Well, the FedEx conference call was, it was open rebellion by the analysts. It's very rare that you see the analysts just kind of try to take down the CEO. And it's very unfortunate because Fred Smith is trying to build a global company at a time when the president changes his mind every day about China, at a time when e-commerce is exploding, and yet there's amazing competition, at a time when the competition is just trying to cherry pick the fat, the really easy stuff, and he has to take everything else. And at a time when the capital expenditures are just remarkable, and he also has to integrate still over the years TNT in Europe, because Europe's very hard, all at the same time as monitoring trade. So the stock is down badly, and yet I'm still not tempted. I still think you may have to wait another day. And then you have to believe that a lot of things are going to go right, including a trade agreement.
Now, FedEx is real money stock of the day for a second day in a row, actually.
It has to be. I mean, it's very rare that you see something like this. This is a great American company. And we've not done stock of the day, it's the same 2 days, but the fallout on this is so amazing because if you're Jay Powell and you were thinking that you may be bending to the president, there's a one point where Smith, who is a trained economist, talks about that we're whistling past the graveyard here if we think that we can be avoiding what's going on overseas. So that was you would cut and cut aggressively. And by the way, Randall Stevenson, ATT, said that the economy's flashing yellow too. So you have the largest, one of the largest telco companies and the largest freight forwarder. They're both saying, look out, things aren't so good. So Jay Powell has ample reason to cut, and he better do so.
FedEx is normally a bellwether for the larger economy, and with all of this, all of the talk about trade, I'm wondering, does FedEx show that we're still at the starting line with China?
I think that you don't want to think there's any trade deal if you listen to that one. I think that but Fred Smith has been the most vocal in saying that we've got to become back to free trade. Now, I have been historically a fair trader, not a free trader, so I listen to that and I push back and say that Nancy Pelosi, in my interview with her, is right, which is that the Chinese have done so many things wrong that we have to be a lot tougher.
That was a great interview with Nancy Pelosi, by the way. Congrats on that.
Speaker Pelosi is very wise and very practical, and I think a lot of our viewers are practical and like to see someone who is practical and doesn't believe it's possible. And I know she came as a firebrand left wing, allegedly, but what she is a legislator in the old time Tip O'Neill fashion. Chris Matthews wrote a tremendous book about Tip O'Neill, really fabulous. Chris is a great writer. And I know Chris lived down the block from me when I grew up. I was at my high school reunion. He went to LaSalle College High. I went to Springfield, Montgomery. But I just feel like that if you read the book about Tip O'Neill, you realize that that's the school of thought she's done, which is that, look, let's just go out for beer. Let's get this done. And that's her nature. And I find it so refreshing. By the way, brilliant person. From Baltimore, a Raven fan. Her husband, Paul, is a Niner fan. And we did a little fantasy. I wanted to try to pin her down on Lamar Jackson and whether she knew Mark Andrews, who's my tight end, because I've been so interested in mixing bull market fantasy with stock market fantasy.
So I want to get to bull market fantasy in a minute, but I do want to ask you about your real money column this morning, which focused heavily on FedEx and Adobe, and you know how difficult e-commerce is. Why is that?
Well, I mean, because it's moving so fast. It's very unpredictable. You never can catch up to it. There's always new competitors. And, you could say let's say, I could have expanded that column bigger. I try to keep it to 800 words. But let's say if you're in delivery, you've got Grubhub, you have Uber, you have Postmates, and you have DoorDash, okay? They're all competing. When you go to cybersecurity, you've got Palo Alto, you have CrowdStrike making a deal with Zscaler, you've got Symantec, you've got the company that's being bought by VMware. VMware is going to be in cyber, it's called Carbon Black. So you have all these competitors there. You have competitors across the board, and I think that what we saw last night from Adobe, perhaps, is that Salesforce, Tableau software together may be a formidable competitor to Marketo, Adobe. Now that said, the market's growing so fast that when Adobe does a course correct at its November 4th Max conference, you're going to regret that you sold Adobe. And I have always bet with, never against Shantanu, and it's been right. Now, it's unfortunate that if you bet with Fred Smith this year, it's not good, obviously. You're back to where it was a couple years ago. But Shantano, if you go back in 2017, there was a early September conference call earnings where he said something that was viewed as a guide down. And then when they had their conference, a little bit after you realized it was not a guide down, it was an opportunity. This was basically a guide down for the forecast, but if he gets it right, and I think he will, then you got a pretty good shot buying Adobe. Not today, never buy on the first day of a big decline, because what that is just the lie. I mean, let me explain how this works. You give a broker an order to sell 500,000 shares of Adobe. So what that broker wants to do is try to what's known as work the order. Wants to be able to show that the average price that he got is much better than the closing price. So you can imagine they slam the close, okay? At the same time, these orders are so big and there's so little liquidity that they can't be finished on day one. So the sellers come back tomorrow, and only if the sellers come back tomorrow and then clean it up do you have your chance. So you never buy on the first day.
There's some investing education for you.
Now, by the way, there will be times when that's wrong, but I'm a percentage guy. It's all I am is a percentage guy, and the percentages say don't buy the first day.
Jim, I want to continue on investing education
Sure.
because I want to play devil's advocate here. I've been talking to a lot of experts about the Fed's decision, which is looming over the markets, obviously, since we get it around 2 p.m. today. But, ever since we got the Saudi Arabia news this weekend, there's been a lot of overhang on these markets. So I'm wondering, let's say the Fed does not cut rates today, that they just leave it as it is. What should investors do?
Boy, that'd be so ill-advised if they did that. It would be an opportunity to buy tomorrow at the close, or maybe wait till Monday. It would be very ill-advised for Powell to do that. It would really take the market by surprise. You wouldn't get a crash, but you get a substantial correction.
All right. Yesterday we had a really fun bull market fantasy show.
Love bull market fantasy.
Exactly. So Jim, I want to.
JJ.
You did.
I picked up Jay Jaw at the advice of Bill on our fantasy that he is the choice was Mac Hollins or Jay Jaw. This is for because neither Alshon nor Deshaun's going to play probably this Sunday and the next Thursday. So I made that move. One of the things I like about bull market fantasy is it's not like you sit there and you say, hey, JJ, Julio is going to play. That's the other JJ. They try to find, Bill tries to find out of the way stocks, so to speak. So let's say you're worried about the market. Well, you don't buy Travelers or Procter, United Health. If you're worried about the market, you try to find these niche players and guys who are not on the roster that haven't been chosen. And we pick a lot of players that are only rostered like 2, 3, 4% of the time. And that means that it's valuable. What's not valuable is to hear conventional wisdom about, okay, look, you ought to play Saquon. Yeah, no kidding. So it's worth listening to because we are looking for niche stocks, so to speak. And it's also like, people are telling me, first of all, it's the thing that I've never seen anything where everybody's watching it so quickly. We just started it. But I think a lot of that is because we mix stocks and with players. And so there's a lot of Wall Streeters that are very interested, and they should be because it is a continuing theme.
And it's a lot of fun for us to do. I mean, I love doing stat versus stock. It's such a great segment that we get to do. All right, Jim. So, guys, if you want to check that out, you can go and rewatch our full show from yesterday on bullmarketfantasy.com. But for now, Jim, we got to head over to Action Alerts Plus.
Absolutely.
So thank you for joining us. And, guys, as I just said, we're heading over to do our Action Alerts Plus daily rundown show over on actionalertsplus.com. I'm Catherine Ross, and I'll see you tomorrow.